Well, it's always such a pleasure to be here at Children's Hospital, such a great resource. And joining us today is Dr. Susan Walley, a pediatrician. Thank you for having us out. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We're talking about secondhand smoke, and don't, if you're a smoker, don't change the channel. This is something that really we all need to be hearing a message. And the effects of secondhand smoke are more serious with children than adults, right?
That's right. We know that secondhand smoke is a health hazard, but children are especially vulnerable to secondhand smoke because they're in a phase of rapid growth, especially their lungs. We know that secondhand smoke can cause retardation of lung growth. We know that it can cause an increased risk of ear infections, respiratory illnesses, sadly sudden infant death syndrome, asthma, and worse asthma attacks. So it really is very serious.
Right, and when you talk about babies and small children, their rate of breathing is faster than an adult, so they're taking more of those toxic chemicals in, correct?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so I mean that's just causing a lot of damage, but also they don't have the ability to walk away.
That's
in many
right.
cases.
We know that 40% of children in the United States are exposed to secondhand smoke, and the rates are higher in Alabama. So children, unlike adults who can walk away, like you said, most of the exposure for children happens in the home, and they can't leave the home.
Right.
And so that is a big issue that we ask parents to smoke outside the home, not with the child with them, and then not in the vehicle. Those are really the biggest ways outside of quitting smoking to reduce your child's smoke exposure.
But you often have people who do smoke heavily and think, well, if I roll down the window, that's okay. But you're still in a contained space, right?
That's exactly right. We know that smoking outside, near a window or near a fan doesn't protect children or adults from secondhand smoke.
I was reading a statistic that was really startling also, and it said something about a child that is in a room with heavy smoke. They're taking in the toxic chemicals that's equal to like smoking 10 cigarettes themselves.
That's right. The longer you stay in an environment with very heavy secondhand smoke, it's like they're smoking themselves.
Right.
And in fact, it may be even worse because smokers, they're smoking through a filter, whereas the secondhand smoke is what's coming out of the butt end of the cigarette or out of the mouth of the smoker.
And I know you went over these things, but let's spell them out again. What is the harm that is being caused when a child is around that secondhand smoke?
We know that secondhand smoke increases the risk for sudden infant death syndrome. It's estimated that 430 infants die every year because of secondhand smoke. We know that it increases the risk for ear infections. We know that it increases the risk for asthma and worse asthma attacks. And in fact, as a pediatrician that works in the hospital, I see that day in and day out, patients who come in the hospital who have secondhand smoke exposure and they come in with an asthma attack or a respiratory illness. And they're having trouble breathing. And of course their parents are very well-meaning and they love their children, so it's something that we try to do to educate and say, this is a factor in your child's illness, and give strategies to help reduce that secondhand smoke exposure.
And also, if it's a grandparent or someone else, just to encourage, with that new child that's coming on, maybe this is the time to give it up.
Right. It's a really big motivating factor. We know as parents that sometimes, what motivates us is the health of our children.
Right.
And so that is what we call the teachable moment, that we try to get parents and grandparents to say, hey, I might not be able to do it for myself, but I'm going to do it for my child or my grandchild.
We know more now than we did generations ago, right?
That
so absolutely.
True.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Susan Walley. And Children's Hospital has a great website as well with lots of resources, including information on secondhand smoke and many other things that you can navigate around. That website is childrensal.org.
That's right.
Right, so you can check that out. Thank you so much. So good to see you. Appreciate
Good to meet you.
Very good advice. And of course, you can check out Children's Hospital has a new website, childrensal.org, and you can see all of the segments that we've done with Children's Hospital in the past by going to our website, daytimealabama.com. Not secondhand smoke, dust.
Folks here are passionate about their horses.